Thank you for visiting my Snowflake certification knowledge series video. In this video, I will help you understand the caching concept. Caching is one of the key feature when it comes to Snowflake. Since Snowflake is pay-as-you-go pricing model, it's very important to understand from the certification point of view. In this short video, we will cover caching fundamentals, keynotes, tips and tricks, besides sample questions and detailed explanation to reinforce your understanding on Snowflake caching. Why this subject area is so important? Caching makes any data system fast, improves the query response time, and reduce latency. This concept is not new. It is a very common strategy in many SQL execution engines, including reporting platform, to keep frequently accessed data in cache or in memory to improve the response. Snowflake applied this concept in a very simple way. What is important here to understand how it works under the hood, not from the technical point of view, but from the conceptual point of view. How Snowflake Cloud Service makes a decision when to use cache and when not to use cache. Exam will or may ask 3 to simple or medium complexity questions or 1 or 2 complex and confusing questions, as this is one of the key feature in Snowflake, and Snowflake advocate a lot about this feature in terms of a cost saving. All my videos are divided into smaller sections. We can call them chapters. You can refer them inside the video panel. As you can see here, that each chapters are having a demarcation. When you hover over those demarcation, you can see which chapter it is currently. And you can jump to the specific chapter by clicking. Alternatively, you can also click on the description section and you can refer those videos directly. This will help you to save time and navigate to the different sections of the video quickly. What is my primary intent to make these videos for you? Well, we all know that the Snowflake is the future of cloud data warehouse. Considering the fact, I decided to be a certified Snowflake developer and an architect and spent around 6 weeks along my day job to clear the exam. I cleared the certification at the first attempt with fairly good marks. I was happy, but I was not very satisfied, especially after my certification attempt. I realized I could score nearly 100%, and some of the conceptual gap kept me away from the center. And hence, I decided to share my experience, the focus area, tips and tricks with all of you. If these videos helped you score better or near 100% or 100%, I would be very, very happy. So let's begin with this chapter. Let's quickly look into the syllabus first. If you look into the syllabus 7.E, the caching comes under the compute. If you are using a caching, then probably the compute is not needed. That's why this section has put inside the compute. Let's start the caching overview. As we know, in Snowflake, everything is SQL, and you can issue a SQL from Web UI or SnowSQL or any CLI or Python connector or with any IDE. All this SQL statement has to pass through the Snowflake Cloud Service layer, that is the first layer, and they call it the brain of the Snowflake. This particular layer analyzes the query first and decide whether this query can fetch the result from the different layer. Metadata cache, result cache, compute layer, or a query processing layer, or it has to go till end the centralized layer. There is a component called optimizer. This optimizer first check what kind of query is fired. It classify the query whether it is a metadata query or this is a query which needs data from the tables. The optimizer first analyze the query and decide whether the data can be fetched in most easiest and optimized way. First, it checks the nature of the query, whether it is a describe query or select count from a table query and what kind of query. If the data can fetch from the metadata cache, then it first return the data from the metadata cache and does not use the compute at all. Now, the optimizer again check, is this query being executed by this user or any other user in the last 24 hours? If yes, then it goes to the result cache, which is also called 24-hour cache, which is little elevated than the centralized storage. And it gets the data from there and return the result set to the user. Now, in both these two cases, the virtual warehouse is not at all used, so you don't have to pay anything. Now let's assume that result cache also doesn't have the cache or cannot serve the user with the data, then it will go to the compute layer. And from the compute layer, if the compute layer is running and if it has the local data available in its SSD or its memory, then the data is returned back to the user. Now it is possible the data is not at all loaded and it has to fetch from the centralized location. and then it will go to the centralized location and get the data from there, being processed in the compute layer, and then finally return it to the user. So this is how the life cycle of the caching which is applied in the Snowflake. Where do you find all those details? If you go to the history tab of your web UI, you can see how each of the query is being classified and whether they are getting the data from the result cache or the metadata cache or from long storage. So this is how this screen looks like. Here you can see on the total duration and byte scan and the number of rows. So it is a very colorful notation which Snowflake present and help user to understand whether the data is coming from a cache or it is read or the byte is scanned from the centralized storage. So here you see the last line where I have created a customer demo using as a select statement, and it has read roughly 106.5K byte, right? And you can see that the column indicating that number. When I fire a select query on the customer demo table, it is still using a compute. However, it is not reading the data from the remote. It is reading the data from the local. When I say local, in the sense it is reading the data from the virtual warehouse, because data is still there in the virtual warehouse, and I fire the query within a few minutes after creating the table. Now, right after that, I fire the same query, since this query had already been executed by the user in the last 24 hours. It did not even go and scan the byte, and that data is coming from the result cache. So you can see the duration is 762 milliseconds, and here it is 170 milliseconds, such a big difference. Now, how do you know what is a remote read versus local read or warehouse or result cache? So if you look into this diagram, whenever you are reading from the remote, it always has a word called remote. And you can also see the table scan at the end of this one. If it is coming from the warehouses, if it is running, you can see that it is local. And if the entire data is being fetched from the result set or result cache, then the screen would look like this. All those detail can be fetched from the query history tab. Now, how much data is being fetched from the cache if it is going till the local warehouse? Then if you further analyze those query profile, you can find all those numbers. So this kind of questions would not be asked in the exam. This is only for your reference, so you can understand how this, or what is the meaning of remote disk or local disk, or the caching part. Now, what is that metadata cache? Let's go through some of the examples and important point. So if you fire a query like select count from a particular table, or if you are firing a min and max on a timestamp or a date column, okay, in such cases, it does not have to go through the result cache or a local cache or even to the remote. All those data is already stored in a metadata cache. Okay, when you look into the size, no size is given, in the sense no warehouse is used to serve this query. Okay, and there is no byte scan. You can see further from your UI, how does it look like? Now let's a little bit go inside the query history web UI to understand how the metadata based result look like. If you fire a query like this, which is minimum or maximum or a particular date and timestamp, you can see when you go inside the profile that it is a metadata based result. So this is how you can understand the data is coming from the metadata. If you fire a min and max on a numeric field, which is slightly different than the date field, you may see a little different result. Okay, and that is called a generator. So there is a generator function. I really am not sure how does it work technically under the hood. However, this is also coming from a cache. So in Snowflake, every data set is further stored in a small partition, and that micro partition metadata is stored into the cloud service, which knows what is the null values, or how many null values are there, what is the min and max of a particular column, and that's how they apply the partition pruning to make sure that it knows which partition to go and improve the query result. If you create a view on the top of a table, and if the table is already in the result cache, will it use the cache or not? Okay, so let's look into that. So I have created a view which is on the customer demo, And if I do the select star from a customer view, even though I have already executed a select star from a customer, which is exactly the same result, but still it will go and use the byte scan. The first and foremost criteria to use the result cache, that the user who is firing that or issuing that query should have access to the underlying object. And second, it has to be exactly same query. We fired a query called select star from a customer view, which is different from a select star from a customer demo, and hence the result cache is not used. Key points to remember here. Cache can be leveraged to save money and speed the result. I would talk about the result scan function later in the discussion. Three types of cache exist. First is metadata cache, which holds object information and statistics. Result cache lasts 24 hours of your result. Warehouse cache hold data locally as long as warehouse is running. User cannot see each other result, but the result cache can reuse one user's result cache and present it to the another user. Very, very important thing. And this kind of questions may come to confuse you. Result cache is not configurable and does not vary for a different edition. So whether you are taking a standard or if you're taking a VPS, this is not a configurable and it will behave exactly same way irrespective of the edition. Result cache cannot be configured and has a fixed 24-hour length. When underlying data is changed or a table is dropped, the result cache is refreshed or become unavailable based on what happened with the underlying object. If the query is changed, even slightest alteration, it will not use the result cache. However, it may use the local cache if the warehouse is running. So if you have fired a query on a customer, if you have changed the same query with limit, the data is still available into the warehouse. It doesn't have to go to the remote. However, it will not use the result cache since the query has changed. So even if you use any alias or if you start using limit from 100 to 1000 to any other number, it will execute a fresh query for you and it will bypass the result cache. So for example, here you see that one. First, I fired a query with limit 10 and second, I fired a query with 100. And then in both the cases, the size is looking large. However, if I had used the limit 10 in the second case, it would have avoided the warehouse. Since the query is changed, even though it is not really big change, still it will go and execute the query from the local warehouse or warehouse. Let's continue. In the following scenario, if you issue a query, the data would be fetched from the metadata cache and it will not even go to the result cache or a warehouse. For example, describe table customer kind of operation, select current user, current session. These are all control statements. Select count from customer, select min date of birth from the customer. So in all those cases, it will not go to any other layer and it will be served from the metadata cache. Result cache, that is another type of cache which is little far from your end user and it has to cross the metadata cache to reach to the result cache. Any query exactly equal word by word which is executed in the last 24 hours will leverage the result cache. Every time query is executed, the cache expire time is altered. Let's understand by example. So for example, at 10 a.m. at the user local time, the user execute a statement called select star from a customer. So the expiry of this particular result will be day 2 at 10 a.m. Now, if the same user or maybe another user who comes and execute the same query at the same day at 5 p.m., the expiry time will change and it will expire at 5 p.m. next day. You can have this cycle. If you continue, you can go up to 31 days. So after 31 days, the result will surely expire by the Snowflake. This is only applicable if the underlying data is not changed and the same query is fired. Alternatively, if you have a dashboard report which is being accessed by hundreds and thousands of users and being refreshed every 5-10 minutes by the different user and underlying query and data is not changing, then you can certainly use this approach to save a lot of money. If a query has a function which are related with the dates like a current date or a current time, they don't use the result cache even if the query is exactly same. So very, very important things to remember. Important terminology is used interchangeably and must be memorized for the certification exam, which I found one of the most confusing thing when the question is asked in the exam. So metadata cache is also called metadata layer, and sometimes it is called a service layer, and sometimes it is referred as a cloud service layer. Result cache, result set cache, 24-hour result cache, query result cache. So in all the cases, result would be the common word which would appear. Now, when it comes to the third part, which is a warehouse cache, it may also be referred as a local cache or SSD cache or a raw data cache or a data cache. So please remember this ABC. Sometime you may get confused that what is being asked. Remote storage is also referred as a cloud storage or a centralized storage or a long-term storage. This is not a cache, and basically any data which is coming from this layer, it has to go through the IO operation, and that's why, and hence it is a most expensive operation. When any warehouse is suspended, the local cache is purged, and this is the one which is purged regularly. So a question may come, which cache is purged regularly, or which cache is purged when the warehouse is suspended. Alternatively, we can say what action causes the SSD cache to be purged. It is exactly the warehouse resize or warehouse suspend. And the question may come, what action causes the data cache to be purged? Again, the answer is same, warehouse resize or suspend. If a warehouse is resized, the data cache is also purged. When I say resized, it could be from small to large or large to small. In any kind of case, the cache would be purged. Warehouse must be running state to use the warehouse cache. So you don't need any warehouse running for a metadata cache. You don't need any warehouse running for the result cache. However, to access the warehouse cache, you need to have the warehouse running. If the warehouse is resized or warehouse is suspended, the local cache is gone. Warehouse cache does not have any aggregated data. It has only the raw data available in the memory or SSD, and hence you can see the compute when you see a query profile. So if your data is already loaded in SSD, it is not loaded aggregated. It is there in the raw format, and that's why it is called raw data cache. Whenever you fire a query, the raw data cache is reused, but the compute is needed from the virtual warehouse. So important point to remember from the exam point of view. Now let's quickly look into result scan and last query ID. One or two questions may come not exactly from the caching point of view, but to ask you how to use these functions to fetch an old query or the executed query within the session. Result scan is a function which helps us to run and fetch result from the previous command within the session, especially last 24-hour executed query, as if the result was a table. Let's say you ran a query, select star from a customer, and you get a query ID 0197 ... You can access this result of the past query by following way. You can anyhow run the same query select star from the customer, but you can also run alternatively select star from a table where you can use a result scan using the last query ID. If you do not specify any parameter, it will always use -1 or the last query which is executed. Alternatively, you can specify the -1. So -1 is from this query to the last one. It is a kind of offset which is used. Alternatively, you can use exact query ID to fetch the result. In all those cases, the result will come from the result cache. You can also include clauses in the result scan query. Only the user who ran the original query can use the result scan function to post-process the result of that query. Let's go through a quick summary before we complete that. So metadata cache, which is having the object definition and the statistics about all the table. How many records are there, min max of each partition, where the null counts and everything. All those detail will be fetched from the metadata cache, does not need warehouse. Result cache also does not need warehouse. However, it has certain conditions. Exact result from exact query. Last 24 hours, underlying data cannot have changed. Functions like current time causes expiration. User can be different, but role must be same. Third, warehouse cache. Warehouse should be in the running state. Sometimes called local SSD or a data cache, contain raw data from the table, not aggregated data. When warehouse is suspended, data is dropped or purged. This word might be used interchangeably. Can use partial data and go deeper for remaining. So if you are joining a customer table with a sales table, if the sales table does not have into the warehouse, then it will go to the remote and get the sales table, and it will still use the customer table. And if you go to the query profiling, you can see how much cache has been used from the local disk. Finally, the centralized storage, which is not the cache, and it is also called long-term storage or a database and table, and the remote storage. Before we start the questions and explanation, I would like to have my disclaimer. All those mock questions are just a representation based on my experience and are indicative. The scope of the content in the exams may evolve, and that's why I prefer that you please refer the current syllabus and the Snowflake documentation and have this mock question as a reference to help you. Before we start, let me help you how to navigate these MCQs. Along with question, the type also appears, which indicate if it is a true and false, single or multi-choice question. The Snowflake certification exam also helps candidate with number of correct options in case of multi-choice. Here, I am not following that approach to make sure you find the solution by yourself without any hint. Options appears one by one. And once all the answers or options appeared, you can pause and attempt the question. Finally, the question complexity and confusing indicator also appears along with the correct answer. An emoji also is added just to make sure that if this question is a confusing question or a straightforward question. And finally, explanation text and any supporting document, if available, would appear on the screen. So let's start with questions. Question 1. Question 2. Question 3. Question 4. Question 5. Question 6. Question 7. Question 8. Question 9. Question 10. Question 11. Question 12. Question 13. Question 14. Question 15 and the last question. These are the resources and the documentation link. For a caching, Snowflake does not have a lot of proper documentation under their user guide. Most of the documentations are available either through the community or from their result scan function. All the best for your Snowflake certification exam. You can refer the description section of the video for important links and reading material. Please do share and subscribe to my channel so you can get notified when the new Snowflake certification content is published. If you find any one of the content or the information is incorrect or inappropriate or not aligned with the Snowflake documentation, please share your feedback via comment section.